All right, so yeah, my name is Reno, and I wanted to make a video for family and friends to understand, to understand, to stand inside of, as a certain, yeah, maybe more elaborate truth. It's not a joke. I do believe in the flat Earth, and this is why. So you're in the right place if you want to learn the why, which is, you know. Um, yeah, give credit for anyone who just wants to, um, you know, to investigate something before they decide on what they think, which yeah, it's pretty rare. So yeah, let's start with yeah, I guess it starts with a little bit of the overarching sort of philosophy of are we in a creation, or are we simply a product of random, scientific sort of luck? And that's really the heart of um, this whole discussion and thought process. You kind of can't have one without the other. Um, I don't think there's any flat earthers that believe that we are uh, just random, products of evolution. So yeah, it goes totally hand in hand with the journey of discovering that you are in a creation, that has intelligent design, all through it. Whether it's the foods that look like body parts, or just the the magnificence of life, and how you know I, you know yeah, take the perspective that it's that we're part of that, who we are, and the whole reality that we exist in is here for a reason, and that your life matters, and you're worthy, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. and and that we have a purpose here, something that we're, maybe collective purposes, maybe universal purpose, and then also individual purposes that we're here to discover, and just what an amazing life that is. It's not just about milking it for, just raping everyone in the world and just getting whatever you can out of it and then blowing it up when you die. No, there's a big picture here, a big story going on. So yeah, I think if someone hasn't gotten past that tipping point, they still believe in a lot of the science type stuff, and you know we all want science. We all want innovation and discussion around science, and this is where the philosophy comes in of how is that undertaken. Is it done in an authoritative way, or is there really an open discussion? I think we learned that in the COVID time. Especially with the medication, that people having a true, pros and cons that are actually legit, to really choose themselves without powerful, interest in media trying to unfairly sway the discussion. Especially with the medical, intervention. That was quite egregious, all of that, and you know, if you do take the idea that, and I'm only really here for people who, um, you know, are willing to make a leap of faith. If you can make a leap of faith with me today or ever before in your life, that we are in a creation, and you want to see things from that perspective, then that's kind of what this video is for. To just take another look at the world through that lens, and hopefully start to see the purpose of the deception or the manipulation or the lies, and why, if we are in a creation, and that sort of there is this, powerful force that is guiding it, what is the reason, for something like a round earth, flat earth, deception, and ultimate the uncovering that for ourselves. What would that teach us? And yeah, it's, when you see someone like Eric Dubay, who puts out a lot of YouTube videos, and it's great education. Um, how can one guy know the truth about, that dinosaurs aren't real, for example, that they were planted and then discovered by sort of powerful interests, and that it's all just sort of snowballed from there until we think that they're real. Or maybe it's nuclear bombs. People have all this fear around nuclear bombs, and um, you know they as far as I know, they can have a bomb, but how do you know that it's nuclear? We don't, and there's no real actual evidence that there are ever any nuclear bombs. That in terms of the fallout and things like that, they're just there's no actual evidence of any fallout from any supposed nuclear bombs. They potentially were just all bombs. Um, so all that fear, what is the reason for that? And if you look scripturally, especially in the book of Matthew, it's a lot about overcoming our fear. We're in a fear feedback loop because that's the opposite of faith. And as we were saying before about a leap of faith is crucial and it's an individual choice. I feel like it's it has to come from each of us. That's so. And that ties into the whole like matrix thing of like pick the red pill or pick the blue pill. We have a choice, and no, and we have to really respect free will as much as we can. And if we don't have that, then we don't have much, because it's what would be the point if we just forced everyone to have all the truth? Where would be the fun? Where would be the story? Where would be the struggle? And so, yeah, I think in order to really sort of upgrade our understanding, I think we have to look at all religions, and something like the Vedas talk about this era called Kali Yuga, and it's sort of like the fall of man, where man's in this deeply, it's like an era of thousands of years, and according to them, we're sort of at the end of that cycle where we're particularly unaware, we're in delusions, we're not very powerful, but it flows on to a very abundant era, and so there's a similarity there to the book of Revelations in the Bible and the sort of end times. And we do face evil in this realm, quite a powerful evil that is very good at obfuscating our unity in a lot of ways. And it would be easy if we didn't have a force it would be too easy. So we have quite a starch rival, kind of like Harry Potter versus Malfoy, or, you look at all the movies, especially the major ones. The darkness is very powerful, and you look at like Voldemort or something like this, and so essentially I sort of see the whole matrix, or the whole program of these different you could call them psyops, or things that come out in the news. Say it's flat Earth, or say it's even just something like the Star Wars movies. There's a certain influence that comes out that affects society, like a social engineering. And if you take the idea that military or CIA or some group in the background, has maybe a large computers or something that are very good at predicting behavior, you can see how movies and politicians and corporations can very accurately, through the data that comes from maybe our phones or just from financial information, that could all be being fed to change society in ways that we don't understand. And so I'm not here to make fear. I'm here to actually show you the opposite, that we're in this giant social experiment basically, and so why the lie? Why would they lie about the round Earth? Why would all the movies since we were kids and indoctrination? What's the real purpose of that? And ultimately, I think it is for us to take a leap of faith and start to acknowledge that we're in a creation, and that our lives matter, and yeah, and to start to do the work, to be a better person, to be more virtuous. Because ultimately, all that holds us back is sin. And if we're in a flat Earth realm, then there's a huge kind of carrot or incentive to graduate from this realm, collectively, and then to spread that goodwill, good faith, um, into other realms, and to be a light in the world of darkness, out there beyond our realm. Um, so yeah, it does go along with the idea of flat Earth having, um, you know, potential other realms where other groups are stuck and need assistance, or maybe they're more advanced and we can learn a lot from them, or maybe it's just something to explore. You look at the Avatar movies, and they have just that great comparison between the humans and the Na'vi, how they're who are we? Do we really know who we are, where we came from, where we're going? In amongst all of this, because if we don't, then we have a lot to think about, a lot to shift over from. Um, so yeah, someone spent $2 billion whatever dollars on that movie, the most expensive movie ever, for a reason. Like there's a purpose in that. There's a message there. We're coming to the point where we have to decide who we are, on a big picture, and that's brilliant. That's exactly where we want to be. So so yeah, with flat Earth, so how does it work? So essentially, the idea is Antarctica is like a ice wall around, because no one's allowed to go beyond the 60th parallel down in the southern latitude there. So it's quite a yeah. Obviously, there's sanctioned trips and sort of like people that are allowed to go, but it's not really something that anyone could just freely do. There's no one that's flown across it. Um, so yeah, imagine the southern hemisphere, that we're on a kind of plate, or like with a rimmed edge, and Antarctica has the highest latitude on average, as it sort of inclines all the way around, kind of like a container, you know. Um, and so yeah, so the southern hemisphere is sort of obviously much larger than, because so the outside of the plate, and then the sun and the moon rotate as bodies above us. Sometimes during the seasons they go higher, higher in summer, and they come lower in winter. And yeah, actually, the moon has a cooling effect. If you test the temperature of the moon coming as like moon shade and moon light, the actual moon light is less of a is like is a cooling light, sort of like opposite to the sun. It's very very slight, but you can measure that and figure it out. So yeah, we're not moving. We're on a stationary plane, a level plane, and you never felt any motion of being on planet Earth. I assume, if you're just paying attention, which is a lot of what this is about. You have to be paying attention. It's not easy. It's very easy to just sit back and call someone like me crazy, and it's very inconvenient for that perspective, because um, we all have egos. We all have we all have really really strong follow the leader tendencies with authority. It's sort of built into us, but we're better than that. We have the ability to critically think about these things in our God-given unique voice. So yeah, that's we're taking a leap of faith in this discussion into that perspective, and it can always be turned back on me, saying I have all the ego, and of course, if I'm wrong and all this, then I would humbly accept that. I'm truly just wanting us to as a debate point to push forward what I believe. Really, I'm not presumptuous in any way. Like, I'm sure a lot of round earth people, potentially seem to be that they're right. I'm really just here to share what I've learned, and then we go from there. And that's what's interesting about the whole, if you look at righteousness, to be on the right hand side of God, and yeah, it's what does that mean to be right, um, or to be left out, to be left behind, um, and so there's an interesting use of language there, if you think about like secret societies or Freemasonry, if they do exist, they have been around for a long time, right? And they would have prepared for all of this. They would have had, and so potentially they would have inserted into our language, especially a global language like English, which I speak German, and Engel is angel. So English is like angelish. So we speak angel language, in a way, or it's one interpretation of it. And so, I speak a bit of Spanish as well, and speaking German as well. It helps to break apart words, So again, it's really great to have multiple religion sort of knowledge, multiple language knowledge, because we all learn more and more and more about less and less and less in university and in civilized education. But if we're learning in life and paying attention, then we can start to put together things that, and that guides. It's like breadcrumbs on our way to, to ultimately, uncovering the sort of a well-worn path of the way, and that's all it needs to be called. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that, because we are connected to a very intelligent force, and so, yeah, when we think about, so you think about left hand side of the brain, right hand side of the brain, is sort of categorized by a more robotic left hand side of the brain, like more of the logistical nature of life, and then you have the right hand side of the brain, which is more, your creative, sort of big picture, relationship based, yeah, sort of, and we can be more dominant, or less dominant on one side, and then there's a sort of connection between the two and how they function together, and that really, if you start to see your brain in that way, you can start to improve its, the way it functions, and how you can, just balance them up a bit better, and find a more right brain dominance if you need to. And right brain is very open. It's like the feminine. It's like receiving. Whereas the left brain's a bit more like it wants to give, and it wants to, tell things as how they are, make things fact, make things hard. It's like everything's a box with the left brain. It's the masculine. It's like you do this, you get this, you go there, you do this. And it has to be linear. It's like makes sense, right? You do this, like a formula. Whereas the right brain, it's like, the ear is connected to the little toe, and it's sort of mysterious. And then you touch this thing and it affects something over there, and you're like, oh, it's like a little puzzle. And, you have to be caring to it, you have to be considerate, and everything's equal. And, so yeah, I love the conversation around masculine and feminine energy and right and left brain energy, because, often we get stuck in the sort of man or woman thing, and that's, we're all running on this, spectrum of masculine or feminine dominance, and yeah, so the whole reason I believe that this matrix been set up is to teach us to be more right brain dominant than left brain dominant, because left brain is dominant. It wants to be territorial. It wants to, it can be violent if it doesn't get its way. It's a self-protection, and whereas the right brain is more collaborative. It's more accepting of others, and wants to have an egalitarian sort of, fluid connection. It understands that it's stronger as a collective, and it's willing to make compromises. So, when they all do these symbols like that, that's a feminine symbol, like the Trump and the Angela Merkel and all this, or Elon Musk will sit there and do that. That's a Freemason symbol to say that we're trying to bring the divine feminine back, and she only comes back when it's safe. Because in order to get him, we have to get her. To get her, it's all in the language. That's what guides us in this journey. And because the English language was made 1,000 years ago. It's a third French, it's a third German, and then it's probably Saxon the rest. And it's very simple conjugations in terms of getting started, because they wanted it to be the world language, but then it's more complicated from there. And it's really amazing that we have a tool like that. And some people sort of speculate that there's even a number, correlation to A is 1, B is 2, all the way through to Z is 26, and then you can kind of codify the language, kind of like the Matrix. And so every word has a number, every sentence has a number, and then you can kind of start to see language as putting out codes, and then that corresponds to other codes, and it gets quite interesting. That's called gematria, and it comes from it's more of a Jewish sort of tradition with their language, and so the Hebrew language is full of it, and the English language is full of it, and it's sort of like a natural matrix. So yeah, it's kind of mysterious how that works in terms of magnetism and torsion and a type of physics that we weren't taught necessarily. But if you look at millionaires and billionaires who do that with astrology as well, then there's a certain power to that we're sort of learning about, and that's really interesting. So yeah, on a flat Earth, how does astrology work? It's much more interesting. Suddenly it's this sort of beautiful, intricate flower pattern as to how these planets sort of orbit and operate. And it's sort of like a clock, an energy clock of the celestial bodies, and stars in a flat Earth model are kind of just like lights. They're just kind of like projecting their energy down, and you see the moon has a huge effect, on the tides, and I mean that fascinates me too, like how on one beach, a few 1,000 kilometers away, the tide level can be, so much different to somewhere else. It might be 10-meter difference in the low tide, high tide, whereas somewhere very similar, not too far away, is only 3 or 4 meter difference of tide. And so yeah, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of mysterious things about our world that don't make sense in the current way of thinking. So yeah, see how I've covered a lot of topics there. It's very I guess anyone here with a sort of overly science sort of left brain, because we've been taught how to think that way in school. School is a left brain factory. It's masculine dominant. Teachers at the front, they tell you what to think. You memorize it. You either get it correct or incorrect. Okay. In a feminine dominant school, it wouldn't work like that. It'd be like, these are the possibilities of what you can learn, and we help you, facilitate you, and we trust in your natural learning process. It comes around. Maybe we give a test to give some motivation, and encourage, make one group have to interact with another group. Maybe force some kind of imperative in there. But at the end of the day, it's you just learn what you learn based on what happened. There's no quantified success or failure in that. And I did a lot of outdoor education. It was very much built on group dynamics and facilitation and debrief after the event to just get the most learning out of it. Because each person's learning might be different, and so overseeing a project, you can kind of give feedback based on how the person did that's specific to them. So it's sort of the opposite of you give the test first. Basically, you just give them the task, and then at the end you give them the lesson, tailor-made to what you saw. That's a feminine dominant classroom, basically. So yeah, it's pretty cool once you start inverting how we've always done things and start to do them the exact opposite way, which is kind of a great way to build discernment. And if you look at Christians and a lot of religions have this sort of middle eye, this pineal gland, aspect of spirituality and things like that. And for me, that's what it means. It means discernment. If you've got two truths that are exact opposite of each other, how do you figure it out? And I guess the two extremes would be your eyes, And you have to go to one extreme, and you have to go to the other extreme, and you have to learn, you have to figure it out. And then through that middle eye, you start to find, the way, your way. And yeah, I think that's what's missing in some of the interpretations of a lot of these texts, and how we can get more out of a story, because there's so much meaning in say Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. What's the significance of that? Pretty much to be virtuous, right? All the other kids got booted out because they were gluttonous, or they were jealous, or they were prideful. It's pretty simple. And Charlie wasn't, and he had the golden ticket because he was doing the work. He was virtuous, and that's kind of how it goes. So when I pick, say, a story like Santa Claus, and imagine there's 3 levels to the story, which is kind of typical. Maybe there's 7 levels to some stories, but just for the sake of this idea, take Santa Claus. So one of the biggest conspiracy you'll ever uncover as a kid is Santa Claus, and it's really funny, isn't it? Because everyone's in on it, and you're just a young person, maybe you're 7 or 8, and you finally figure it out, or someone tells you, and you're like, what? Everyone lied to me. But I want to believe in Santa Claus. There's an incentive to continue to believe, because then you get more presents and things like this. So you might extend that, to you're quite old. Maybe some people still pretend. So if you kind of take that to the real world, though, so if you sort of believe everything you hear, then you kind of, without really discerning anything, or you have a vested interest in that, being that way, then you kind of are on that first level of believing in Santa Claus. You don't really want to know the truth. You're happy with this kind of fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're not passing judgment. It's just sort of one level of choice. That's all. Because the masculine would put a correct or incorrect thought process, and we're trying to get more into this feminine process of like, okay, well, that's a choice, and that will lead to whatever results potentially, and okay, that's what you choose. That's no problem. But it comes with the next level of like, well, let's talk about the next level. So you figure out Santa Claus isn't real. Maybe you're a bit like, I figured it out. You're pretty proud of yourself, and then. But you're maybe a bit pissed off at the people who still think it's real. Like, come on, get it. It's so silly. And so take that to the real world, and that's your sort of conspiracy theorists who maybe have this, kind of like Lord of the Rings. They believe that there's this one demoned eye that's sort of, on, controlling everything, and it's the devil, and we're all being lied to, and it's all this, we're like cows to the slaughter. It's all this horrific thing. Like, stop lying. And so, that's how most people sort of finish. I think they go, okay, I figured out Santa Claus isn't real. It's just for kids. But if an adult really believed in that, we can't take them serious. That kind of thing. All right. So then there's the third level, and I've only just discovered all this third level for myself in this particular story. So every story is different, and say it's Humpty Dumpty, which could be the pineal gland, which means that we have to, ourselves have to put ourselves back together again. All the king's horses, all the king's men can't put us together again. So any oval symbology is often the pineal gland, which is this master gland here that's like, that needs to be open and full of light. So the more light we can get into our body on a held space, that's why eating fruits and all that is better, because there's more light in them, more hydration, all of that, and just the frequency within the food. If you cut it in half, you see the markers of the energy, the frequency, and the colors and all that. So the more fruit we can eat, the better, because it has a tuning process to our spiritual acuity. So the third level of it is really awesome. It's the idea that Santa Claus is this sacred, secret, sexual solution, because I wrote a song about it. And it, it's sort of the same fluid in your brain, in your neck, and in your genitalia that's semen. It's the same for men and women as well. So yeah, the idea is that in the Bible, if we go to Jacob's ladder and climb to Pineal, there's 33 degrees. That's why the Freemasons are all about 33 degrees. It's the climbing of the spine, to get to the alchemical milk and honey, which is Latin for honey, and then tonin. So we're toning our honey with our spiritual acuity. So it comes up, and we climb the chimney, but if we've been good or bad, right? So, and Santa knows, he's been checking it twice. And so, yeah, and all boys and girls, like adults as well, we're all still children in this sort of story. And yeah, so basically it's an allegory for simply when we hit Christmas, and if we've done all the right things throughout the year, then we will get this present, which is upon high, which is the summertime when the sun's at its highest. Because the solstice, or the longest day in summer, is the 21st, and then we get the 3 days afterwards. And so, yeah, then we hit the 24th, and we have, and so the idea in this astrologically and alchemically is that we get this meeting, and it's kind of like meeting God for the first time, and it's this bliss state, of enlightenment, that we can start to open our cup. It's like the Holy Grail, where we don't die, we're immortal from that point. And so yeah, it's the Christos. This is what Christ means. It's the claustrum, which is the Christos, which is the Christed oil, in our lamp, and if we rub it 3 times, we'll get 3 wishes. And yeah, you can be an alchemical genius with that simple knowledge, and that's what the Hindus believe is the Kundalini, and it's all about this spinal journey, from the base of your spine all the way up, so from your sexual energy base all the way up to the top of your head, the fontanelle, and then explosion to the firmament, right? Because now we know that there's a spiritual firmament, the waters above, they call it, which is, it's not the same sort of water as in the ocean or here on earth, but it's sort of God's light. God is the Father in the sky, and that is consciousness. All of our ancestors, all of the people alive today, it's all connecting to this 7 layers of firmament, which is like the 7 chakras within us. So yeah, if we go to that with questions, well, ask and we shall receive. As above, so below; as within, so with the soul. And it's so you see how it's all connected. Like yeah, and to be good is just to do good. If we know better, we should be doing better. And ARK is acts of random kindness, which is niceness, which is goodness, kindness. So we're paying it forward. We're being the one to take the leap of faith and to just be nice to someone without knowing if they're going to be transactionally nice to us. But it's all good, and that's how we make a better world for everyone. And that's what all of these ideas are about. How do we make a more fluid, better, connected world? And anyone who doesn't want to be a part of that will stand out, and then they'll be challenged, and that's what I love about getting away from civilized society and spending time with people, who understand this process a little better and just want to interact on a unscheduled basis, because any sort of darkness within someone, once the energy gets high enough and people, enjoying each other's company and having fun and maybe singing a lot in nature, then some of the darkness comes out, and it's a chance for everyone to learn from that and support that person and to cleanse that from the group, which is really beautiful to see how that works once we get out of our way. And you look in the book of Matthew, it talks about why can't how does a bird know what to do? How does a dog know, or how do animals live in nature and just know what to do to survive, to live, to be, or like a child? So we're a long way from that. We're very untrusting in the way that the current modern sort of consciousness is. To just survive in the wild, kind of knowing what to do. I think we're a long way from that level of awareness. And it might be much easier in the equator or in the tropics. So that's maybe a test of how we can live in the future, from here. That was sort of the main points of it. And just to cover flat Earth again, I mean, what did I do? So then there's a magnetic North Pole. The energy comes up and goes out like a big torus field, like an apple. So a torus field is an atom that is the basis of all matter. Matter matters. What's the matter with matter? And it's magnetic. So magnetism is like, that's why the whole Trump thing is all coded. So Make America Great Again is MAGA, magnetism, the mother, magazines. So that's why the whole Trump and Q thing is very important. It teaches you all this information, and it's in all your movies, all the TV shows. All the main characters are Freemasons. That doesn't mean they're evil. That means they're here to teach us something and to help us, raise our vibration. So, so it's a flat Earth. There's a firmament. There's an ice wall. And when just to finish, I mean, thinking about Germany and the history of Germany, and people like Hitler, they knew about this. They were Freemasons, and they went on to build the rockets and to create the fake moon landings. But it was all for a reason. It's all so there is a darkness on this plane. If you look at the Matrix, for example, there was a sick mind virus that takes over. And it's us, it's the way we think. It's our judgment. It's our sinfulness. So we're being cleansed of sin. That's why this is happening. And so we have no one else to blame for this deception than ourselves. There's nothing else. So love is forgiving. We go to the forest for rest. You need to look at the language that we speak. It's 20/20 hindsight. For the COVID time, and there's just so many when you really look for them. There's just so many people reaching to preach, people raising, because we need to rise our kundalini up to get out of the forest and see, what's going on. So that's our putting on our own mask before we can help anyone else. So then when we look at something like Hitler, as horrible as everything that happened. Based on our interpretation of it, if you really look at what Hitler was trying to bring, it was, money that was backed by something, radical concept. It was a day's work because they didn't have any money. So they didn't have any money after the First World War, Germany. And so what were they going to do? All the gold was gone. They'd lost the war. Hitler came into power in that space, and they had to rebuild their industry, and they very quickly became one of the most powerful industrial centers, and built the Volkswagen and had the engine at the back, so it was very safe and you could brake quickly. And the Volkswagen means people's wagon, and there's some of the best cars even till today. And the houses were given almost free loans to families. A lot of the houses now in Germany are built in this era of the 1930s, and they're double story with a cellar underneath, very practical. And he encouraged families to go on holidays, and all the Jugendherberges, which are like youth hostels, were all built. These immaculate places for groups to hike around Germany and to spend time together. Um, the yeah, there was a real sense of alchemy, within the understanding of things, and yeah, it was a real fight of philosophy at the time, and people weren't ready for it basically, and it all blew up. Um, and there were some, really dark things that went on, and basically everything was the winners write history, and it was all characterized from there, and so most of them had to flee to Antarctica or to get away, um, and then yeah, some of them went and did all the NASA rockets, uh, because they wanted to help. These are goodly, godly people, and although they're deceiving us, it's for a reason. It's to cleanse us of sin. At the end of the day, of yeah, of our, kind of like Agent Smith that takes over, and just wants to kill her, Cainable, which means Cain ate Abel, and that's our left brain eating her, the right brain, and suddenly we're this mindless zombie, that then the dead bury the dead from there, right? It's once the zombie, the lie that never dies, right? The zombie lie. Um, the gaslighting, the straw manning, the I've heard this first, so this much must be right. It makes sense on a formula way, and this is where you get doctors who study for all this time, and they do these immaculate procedures on children, to fix their eyesight or their ear sight, so their ear hearing, because it has mucus in it, and that these children in communities and rural places have mucus all in their system, so that they're just worried about fixing the symptom, but they don't have a clue how to fix the cause, and that's where you need the holistic view. You need the holistic truth. The more we cannot live in bliss, which is love and truth together, if we ignore truth, and that means we have to be, yeah, looking in a more feminine sense at the causes. Like is world hunger a symptom or a cause? It's a symptom of a broken financial system. And that went right back to the Titanic, and basically the ships were switched. It was the Olympic, and they did an insurance fraud, and the bankers didn't get on the ship at the last minute, and then maybe they ran into an iceberg on purpose, or there was a torpedo or something, and so the Titanic's on the bottom of the ocean, and that's why there's probably this shenanigans around the submarine at the moment, because there's probably still evidence down there that it's not really the Titanic down there, and but the point is that the Federal Reserve was created right after that, because the three most richest men in the world, Guggenheimer, Astle, and I've forgotten the other guy, but in the movie it even hints at all this. So all the movies hint at this stuff if you're really looking, and they probably have deleted scenes ready to release at some point, because they know that we're going to figure this out. It's inevitable that people like us are going to be interested in this, and because there's incredible darkness that exists on the plane, on this earth plane, that is not to be underestimated. So yeah, I hope that this sort of conversation has given a seed of interest, and there's plenty more to discuss, plenty more to decode in myths and stories and movies and Bible verses, and it's all connected. And when you look at modern science and that kind of thing, the problem with it is it's too masculine, it's too formulaic, it's too much of a train of a straight line, of thought. The body doesn't work like that, the world doesn't work like that. So truly we have to marry the ancient texts, because they were more enlightened. There's no question. Look at our churches and things like that today. They have these little coops at the top with spires on them, and there's technology that exists all around us every day that we don't understand what that could be used for. What was this 3, 6, and 9 and free energy and all this kind of stuff. So we're on a journey. We're on a hero's journey, and there's no victim mentality in a hero's journey. You know, you look at every movie, it starts with the main character losing its parent, you know, which happened to me in my life, you know, and it's just representative of the struggle, you know, and unless we've had nails through our palms, you know, then if we're being persecuted, they know not what they do. You know, we're all, you know, Jesus in that way, um, or Yeshua, or, you know, and that's another, you know, it's a symbology of the Christos, of us rising, of us getting this energy higher, through being more virtuous, um, and just simply making it, you know, enhancing each other in our daily activities, and it has to be spontaneous though. It can't be formulaic. So yeah, we have the authority to change this world with that power of faith. So yeah, hope that at least gives my perspective on it. I know that people are upset about some of the maybe presumptuous sort of thoughts, but that's part of the journey. You know, we have to overcome that. Yeah, and I think that's all for now. If there's any questions, let me know, and feel free to make a response. And yeah, just in the interest of opening up a discussion, I feel like we need more discussion, not less. You know, I don't want to shut anyone down, and we have, you know, free airtime for everyone basically. And we do regular chats on Telegram. Justin Carpenter is a great person to follow. He does regular discussions. If you have an idea for a show, we can do it together. Telegram's really awesome. You can just turn up as an avatar, and it's all audio. And we do 3-4 hour chats on all of this. Yeah, Charlie Freak is a great one to follow. Eric Dubay. You know, just to get this right eye working. You know, a lot of us have our left eyes dominant, and then from there we can get our middle eye discerning. So yeah, that's the idea. So thanks for listening. My name's Reno, and yeah, let's make the world great again. Let's make the earth